Let's talk about the tragic mulatto myth, because we did touch on that a little earlier. Just someone made a comment to you about I would never have a mixed child or something.
Yeah, this was elementary, middle school, and honestly, I told you earlier, I can't remember if it was a teacher or if it was my parents, my friend's parents,
Right.
sorry.
Gotcha.
They said to me that I would never have a mixed child because the child will grow up always being, what did I say?
Confused.
Yeah, I was really confused right there too.
It's so tragic.
It happened to me. Yeah, they told me that they would always be confused, and I don't know if it's because I heard this at a young age that I actually lived this, but there was a period of my life that I went through feeling very confused, and you know, in hindsight, like it might have just been puberty, because I feel like we all go through that. But at the time, because I had heard this comment, I was always consciously thinking that, oh, I'm confused because I'm mixed. And I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want to be. And I think that's something that's kind of, it's grown with me, and it got really bad, and then it shrank. So that part is pretty much gone now, but it did play a big part in the progression or lack of progression of me as an adult. And
how did you think you came out of it?
You know, just surrounding myself around the right people, and I started reading a lot. I started reading a lot of spiritual books, and that might not be for everybody, but for me that was what got me through it. Church might be the answer for some people. It's what helped me, and it started helping me think and accepting myself more as me instead of who I think that people wanted me to be.
And so, if someone was to say, if someone asked you, what are you? What do you say?
My first response is always to roll my eyes. I really hate that question. And that also comes from us moving to Atlanta and being a little different. It was almost like a fad to have a girl who was mixed with something and considered exotic, so to speak. And so when I get asked that question, for me it has such a negative connotation that I'm always very hesitant to ask that, because I feel like what I'm mixed with holds no weight. And I usually tell people, the first thing I tell them is, if you get to know me, you will find out. Because I don't feel like that's something that needs to be public knowledge, but that is something that people who get to know me, it's a privilege to know. I don't ask people what they are unless we're having a conversation that I feel it's valuable to. So, but if I do answer the question, I usually just say white and black. When my roots are Irish, Dutch, and black. So
I think it's interesting when you say, if you get to know me, you'll find out, because I also think that if you just say I'm white and black, I think people are trained.
Yeah, they already have an idea.
To put you, oh, that means you're black. That's really kind of all they heard, because there is no general understanding.
Right.
We haven't spoken up yet, I don't think, to tell people what it's like to be both, or that it really, to me, it matters,
Right.
And I hope that people are open enough to accept that. And if you get to know me, you'll see that it matters. Really, because the only way that I think you're going to understand what my truthful answer is if you get to know me, because I don't think there's really a reference point for people to understand that if I say that I'm white and black, I really mean that I am black and white,
Exactly.
So, I mean, I think that's a very telling sentence, that statement that you made.
I have friends who are from Africa, and if they're asked where they're from, and they say their respective country, people already kind of have an idea, which is far less negative than any idea that people have when you say I'm biracial, and I feel like when they know about my friend from Africa, it's more so like, oh, like she likes spicy food and she can cook and silly things like that. But when you say you're biracial, it's just sometimes the most negative thoughts, or like when I tell people that and they'd be like, oh yeah, I already knew. like, what do you mean?
Yes.
Like,
Oh, I suspected that. Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, I don't get that. Or the whole, you sound white, or we talked about this earlier. One of the things I hate the most is when I do something out of my own character, I get told that I'm doing it because that's the white coming out of me. What is that? I've never understood what the white is and what the white isn't.
And how's it coming out? How is it not just, it's there,
dude.
dude.
This is me. Like, it's just me. I do the things that I do because I like them. If I want to walk around barefoot outside, it's not because I'm white. It's just because I grew up in the country. I grew up in the Midwest. That's what we did. We walked around barefoot outside. So naturally, I feel comfortable taking my shoes off. Or speaking white. I don't even think that I sound white or black. I sound like me. So those are just two things. I could probably think of more. Those are two of the biggest things that just drive me insane.
I think that's a big part of this whole issue, though, is that there are these negative connotations.
Yeah.
People have just been trained that by race, it's just not acceptable.
Right.
That is not okay. You have got to be black. I mean, if you look white, good for you. Then don't mention that you're black. Whatever.
Exactly.
You know. But I think that's part of why this institutionalized racism and otherness and this hierarchy still exists. Because if we had long been recognized for exactly what we are, then that stuff doesn't really hold water anymore, because there's this middle ground. These things go well together. It's not so polarized. It's not totally opposite. It's
exactly. There's many layers in between, and there's no definition. It's just the day that we can stop focusing on what race you are over what your likes and dislikes are, will be the day that our world is at peace. And I feel like this problem exists much more strongly in America than anywhere else in the world. We place so much emphasis on race and physical features than, in my opinion, I can't say that I'm a world traveler, but in my opinion, than anybody else in the world. And the expectations in America are sometimes just so ridiculous. I don't understand it, and I just want people to let me be me. Can I just be me? Can I live?
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, do you have any insight into like what we could do to speed this up at all? I feel like that's my goal, and I don't know how to attain it.
Like I told you earlier, I think what you're doing is great. Just getting people to think about it alone is enough, and the fact that you get so much response makes it even better, because you know that people are now thinking about it and then they're responding. And to see any change takes cause and effect. And you know, until people are talking about it and are comfortable talking about it and sharing their feelings and being open about it, you're not going to see any change. But if you keep pushing that and continuing to make it more acceptable to talk about, then these issues will slowly be brought out to the open, and things will be done to help change that.
That sounds good.
Yeah. It's a long process, but...
Right? What would you or do you say to people who might accuse, I would even say me instead of you, of trying to deny your blackness? Like, you just don't want to be black. That's the only reason you'd ever bring up that you're biracial.
And for anybody that would actually meet and know me, would absolutely know 100% that that's not the case. I've never denied either side of me. Most people identify me with black, curly hair. I'm not that dark, but my skin is not white.
Right.
But to go back to the real point, it's just I just don't feel like anybody could ever say that about me. So I don't even have an answer for them. And if that's the case, they're really it's something within themselves that they're not liking, because they're more concerned about what I'm identifying myself with when it really doesn't matter. And I don't identify with anything. I identify with me. So for anybody to label me like that, I'm sorry.
Sorry for you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything that you would like to add? Is anything I didn't ask, or didn't get to say that you might have wanted to?
First of all, I love my mother.
That's always good to say.
Yeah, I love my mother, and you know, I can only imagine for her how hard it must have been in her situation and circumstances to raise me, and you know, people do only what they know that they're able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in no way, you know, am I angry or mad at my mother for how she chose to raise me. It's just what she knew, and in that regard, I can say I'm very thankful for the way I grew up, because I'm very open-minded. My mother's never been closed-minded. She's never veered me towards dating white men or veered me towards dating black men. You know, she has me with my father, who is African American, and she now has a white husband. And I love him to death. Like, I couldn't imagine him not being in my life, honestly.
Oh, wow.
You know, I do wish that my relationship with my father could have been better, and not saying that I won't in the future. But regardless, you know, the way things are what made me me, and learning to love myself only makes me appreciate the journey that I've taken to get here, whether it be bad or good. So I have no regrets, and learn to love yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.